Hi, Sunday chat, and we didn't have a Saturday chat, so let's try and make it mildly interesting. I have been working on the Phantoms, the 148s, and probably doing somewhat boring jobs like closing up the undercarriage doors and the air brakes on that one, and you can see that's come out very nicely, very in line. Oh, and I cut off the aux air doors, the auxiliary air doors on this one, and put them in. So that gives this one a very nice clean finish, and this is the one which is going to get a weapons load on it, but is going to be hanging from the ceiling in flight. Quite a tedious job actually, because each one of these doors needs extensive work on them to seat it to exactly the right height, because if you just push it in and glue it in, it'll be too low and too high in some areas. Same with the air brakes. So there's a lot of filler plastic underneath there. The doors themselves in shape needed almost no cleanup. That's a very good, one of the very nice things about this Hasegawa kit. Although, do you see the difference in shape on those aux air doors? So they were not actually molded by taking that slice out of the wing. They were just molded sort of freehand by the designer, I guess. So they have the wrong curvature, and they needed shortening width-wise. So that sort of just demonstrates a bit of a shortcut that they tried to take. Now, although those aux air doors are off, I should say they are open a lot, they are not always open. There is a certain speed range in flight where they are closed. I would say at medium to low speed, from what I've gathered. They blow open automatically at higher speed or at high airflow flying conditions. Thanks to those of you who commented and helped me with understanding the Phantom. I do have another question. So that, do you see the undercarriage doors on that one? They're pretty much in line and flat with the surface. This one has got a bulge, so it looks like the undercarriage is somewhat larger. So the doors actually have extra curvature and blister in them. Can somebody tell me why that is? Did they beef up an increased wheel size or something like that? Okay, and then some of you may have seen the pictures I posted of my internals on the aux air doors for this one. So this is the aircraft that'll be standing undercarriage down. And I must remember to put weight into the nose. I really need to remember that, otherwise this aircraft is not going to be standing. So this, I was looking for pieces and I found these 1/32 MiG-29 engines, which I didn't use on my MiG because you don't get to see them. And I was being a bit lazy. And I thought, well, that piece looks not too bad. And I cut off some there, and I cut off some there, and then I sliced it exactly down the middle. And then I glued them at an angle like that. So that curvature, as I sliced it, I then opened it somewhat like that. And I made sure that I have the flat sections to glue flat, and I did something that can pass as quite a reasonable interior. In fact, I'd say this random slapped together thing that I did from MiG-29 engines is possibly even more accurate than any of the aftermarket resin pieces which I was looking at, and I'm not sure how good they were as to reality. But anyway, it is what it is. And remember, you only get to see at about that angle, so that's all you might see if you even had good lighting. So it's almost just an academic exercise. The actual amount of that detail which you'll get to see is very, very little. But I thought it was, nice to do on one of them at least. Oh, and that's the front of the MiG engines. And because they're 1/32nd and I need to fit them into 1/48th and I don't feel like trimming the entire diameter down, I sort of flattened one section, glued them at more or less a distance apart that sort of fits the model. So that will go into there, and then when you look in the intakes you will see that. But then on Friday I sort of thought maybe I should just give it a bash to see about making a 3D printed intake. I was not sure how successful I'd be, but I do like learning a bit more in Fusion 360, and I'd seen this command in there which joins up one profile with another profile. So although this piece looks complicated, all I had to do was measure that, get the right distance apart at some distance that I feel was relevant, put the intake and again a guesstimate of diameter, something that looks reasonable, and use the commands. I mean, it wasn't quick, it still took a number of hours, and then did a trial print which was not too bad at all. For a first try, didn't quite fit. I did a second one, I did a third one which was a failed print, which gave me that. That's because it came loose from the bed. And then this is the third one, version 3, which I've marked there. And this one is not too bad. It fits in quite nicely. I had to do a little bit of modification, or I should say I tried to do necessary modifications. So this bottom lip it sort of fits underneath this, which means you've got space to actually knock it down so that the new bottom becomes the lower surface. The sides I've tried to thin out quite a lot, because then you end up with that same problem in the 1/32nd kit where you've got that step which then needs to be worked, but there's no space here to work anything properly. And then I managed to get it very nice. If you listen now, you see it clicks in there because it just pushes this down, so it actually slots in there very nicely. And you get your intake there, very nice intake. The only thing, as I say, is once the proper intake extension is on, there will be this ever so slight lip which you will be able to see, but for the purposes of this, that's okay. I just wanted to see if I could do a intake, take the time to learn a little bit more in Fusion 360, see if I could make one of the phantoms mildly more interesting. So that's got its intakes, which will then fit just in front of this. I'm not sure if I'll paint that, probably not. Now this this PLA, which I'm printing with, is not like styrene plastic. It doesn't glue with styrene glue. In fact, it's quite annoying actually. It's quite handy and cheap as a printing filament. I decided to print in that orientation so that I didn't need support material, otherwise it causes a lot of surface blemish. But if you printed it in that orientation, your lines end up being more in line and less visual to this. but for the purposes of this one, that's okay. So the downside is that you get this, I don't know if you really see it on there, but you do get this resolution line as every layer was done. But it's deep enough in the intake that it won't stand out too much. And I mean, it's close enough to the actual color, so that is what it is. I cut the arista hooks off. Now, I did do a little bit of research on the Phantom in the week. I guess one of the reasons that they molded it on is because it ends up being almost exactly the same coloration and metals as these parts of the aircraft, which I guess is titanium, just to ensure that the aircraft doesn't get damaged by that heat blast. But I do think it's worth doing a little bit of separate modeling on the arista hook. So before I researched, I thought there might be paint, maybe yellow and black lines on it. But because this arista hook is right in the blast path, you could paint it, but it's not going to remain painted for very long on the real aircraft. So that's why it's just stainless steel, a little bit slightly burnt stainless steel. Stainless steel or titanium? Actually, I'd be interested to know which one. Probably, no, I don't know, because it's not like, well, these aren't a high strength part. The arista hook obviously is, so maybe it is titanium. So I'll do separate modeling on that. It does make the painting of this slightly easier. So that's off. Oh, I cut this section out because that was, of course, just one large flat slab, and that's to fit that. And of course cutting out the intakes themselves, and I thinned that out a little bit. That was a bit of work. Cutting out the intakes, because I looked at that other one, that first one, which I was doing, the one which is going to be blue, and those blanked off intakes are really an eyesore compared to what you achieve with some minimal work. Now, I can't print, by the way, I can't print this, or I should say I can print it, but it won't look very good on the on my 3D printer, because when the resolution of the detail is quite small, the print layer resolution starts interfering. So I mean, it could pass since it's deep in the aircraft, but for a close-up visual part, I don't know, maybe I should do an experiment just to actually see how it looks, but I don't think it's going to be that great. I'll do a test, because that's a very easy part to design. And then I've just sprayed that, and that'll get a fair bit of interesting detailing, since the seats do need to not look so even and bland. And there's the frames of the ejector seats. They will, of course, still get quite a bit of detail. Those extension tubes for the ejection, they're in the middle. Unfortunately, they won't be seen. They're quite a nice little detail part there, but you're not going to see anything of that when they in position in the aircraft, I think. Or at best you'll see a little bit if at the right angle. But anyway, I'll do nice weathering on that, and we'll have nice seats. So I don't often do that much attention on a cockpit unless it's one of the aircraft that I'm getting quite into, which I am rather getting into on the Phantoms now. I need to make a correction. So thank you to the person who pointed out, when I did my 10 best models, I called my Yacht Tiger a King Tiger. It's not a King Tiger since it doesn't have a turret. It has a fixed face armor. It's a yacht tiger. I forgot that. Or I just used the wrong term. Thank you. After mentioning the 1/72nd Phantom, which I said I will build more or less at the same time, which I need to get busy on, which is quite a simple build compared to these, I started looking at better kits, because that is quite an old kit that I've got there. And I thought, yeah, it might be a nice idea to actually build a good quality 1/72nd. And there we run into that problem of the cost of the kits again. The cost of a nice 1/72nd Phantom starts running into costs that exceed maybe even these 1/48th Phantoms. And I sort of draw the line at, you know, how much you're willing to pay for something versus how much you really need that. And then you find this, which I've just taken off my shelf, which is the little 100th. And this is quite an old kit by Tamiya. I actually don't know what the date is. I'll have to look this one up and see when they made this. Oh, what's that? 1982? Can't be 1992. It's written very small there. I think it's 1982. This 100th Phantom is actually amazingly good. So, you know, you want to buy a 1/72nd and you're going to pay such an exorbitant price, and Tamiya was making a very high quality 100th back in 1982. So this, don't need that stand. So this I think I'll just do at the same time as well. Very simple, very nice. I've actually done one of these before. I've probably showed it in a video, but I do feel like doing another one. Not a whole lot to do on this, and I think you can make quite a nice finish. Might just do this one undercarriage up then, and I guess there's nothing wrong with just doing it in that scheme. So there you go. Yeah, so I'm not going to go and spend a lot. I mean, it's not that urgent that I need a 1/72nd Phantom. In fact, I don't need another one at all, you know, having the one that I have, even if it is old. So I go from a good quality 100th to a not so great quality 1/72nd, to medium quality 1/48th, to good quality 1/32nd. These are the two boxes, which are these two remaining Phantoms, apart from the one which will be blue. Now that one I think looks quite nice. That's a scheme I can do. Nice decal set. So I probably will do that one. This one is very bland. It says Egypt 1, an F4CD Egypt 1. A very bland set. Now this one has got alternates. There's an alternate scheme there. So I've got the choice of doing an alternate, or I can do another Reno. We'll see when we get to that. So I think this one will be the one with undercarriage down and a weapons load on it, which I guess will look exactly like that. Yeah, that's not too bad. But I do like the idea of another Reno Phantom, because that first one it's using the blue scheme with a little bit of gold trim and the standard decals for that specific celebratory scheme, but adding some Reno decals to it, and possibly a little bit of extra highlighting here and there on some aspects of it in coloration, whatever. But if I do another Reno scheme where from the word go, I'm totally designing it as a racing scheme, that could actually look pretty nice. So that, you know, rather than trying to work something around this existing set, and I don't feel I really need a Phantom in a Lover's scheme, nicely weathered. I'd rather just have a another nice bright Reno Phantom. Oh, I got this, which I have not even opened yet. So that's the heat gun to use on the, or did I show that in another video? I can't remember if I did. So actually I'll probably do a test shortly and just see how fast it frizzles this up, shrinks, and I need to sort of, you know, get that motion right of how quickly to get around it over that vampire canopy, and see what I can do. It's really just a case of getting that heat and action right, and just getting it to go over. Should be a very easy process once you've got the action right. First you mess up a couple of times just to sort of find out where the material shrivels up. I'll use this, and I'll use a couple of other materials. We'll just give it a bunch of tries and see. Oh, I said I was going to do that on a video. So actually, once I'm finished trialing, I will actually do that video. So that'll probably be in the week then. The undercarriage is the next phase of the Phantom that's going to get undercarriage down, which will be quite a long process. Undercarriage and landing gear bays. Got to make that look pretty nice, and I've got to figure out how to adequately paint the white general surface, but then get red edges all around, and I don't really feel like, I don't want to do that by hand. So it might mean painting the whole thing red and then doing something to mask off just the edges and then paint white. But I won't. See, now that comes into the coloration thing again. Painting white over red is really not a good idea. So you don't want to have your general undercarriage door get red color on it and then have to try and cover red with white. Not good at all. So it's sort of like you need to cover the main surface with some quick masking, spray the edges red, and try not to get red anywhere else. Take off that, mask the red, and then paint the white. If you start getting a little bit of red shining through your white, you get a pink effect, which is rather annoying, and I don't really want to have to grey primer if I don't need to on particular things, because the grey would cover the red fairly well. But we'll see. I'll decide how I'm going to go with that one. So there's a bit more to do on the cockpits, but then these will be able to start getting glued together. So gradually we'll get there, but I'm quite happy with how it's gone at the moment. I'm not sure why Tamiya didn't mold flaps and ailerons separately. It's like they did the air brakes, but flaps would have seemed like a reasonable addition to that molding process as well, I would have thought. But I guess everyone just wants to build it like that, so maybe. I'm not sure if they respond to what they think most builders do, or if they just do their thing. Anyway, they will look really, really nice. So I do need to mount that canopy. I'll probably do that shortly. I have painted that can dry a little bit more. And we shall have a chat on Monday, I think. Happy modeling.